your, I don't know if we should say arch nemesis, Lizzo. She's found herself in a little bit of hot water.
I was grinning like, what's the cat from Alice in Wonderland?
The Cheshire Cat.
I was from temple to temple, baby. Like Magic Johnson just closed a business deal.
Yeah. So basically,
All teeth, baby.
your static with her comes from the fact that
First of all, I never had any static with her.
Okay, but so
I was being a comic doing what comedians do in an interview. Can you imagine that we live in an age now where if you interview a comic and he does what comics do, it's all of a sudden fodder for disgrace or cancellation.
Yeah, like
I was
literally,
doing what comics do, man.
like stand-up will be quoted and used against you as if it was you speaking in the most serious terms possible.
I was being funny. Whether or not you thought it was funny, that's subjective.
Right, but what was it? An interview you were doing where somebody asked
for
you about Lizzo?
dialogue. Yeah, they asked me.
And all you did was you said that, you know, you support her, you like her, she's great.
I recognize the talent.
But that you also thought that she was playing with fire by sort of promoting a way of life that is clearly pretty dangerous.
Yes, queen, like the black girl. And listen, I get the black female mantra. Yes, queen, yes, slay, girl, slay, your confidence. I get it, because this country has always gone out of its way to make black women, from a beauty standpoint, feel less than. You know, they ridicule black women for their facial and physical features, which are the same facial and physical features that a lot of non-black women are purchasing today. Black women have always been the epitome of you know, slander and ridicule. When in actuality, physically, black women are some of the most copied women and most sexy, baddest on the planet.
I agree.
So, but my point is, you know, while we respect and wanna and they wanna celebrate Lizzo's confidence, which is admirable and commendable, the silence in regards to the truth can be fucking dangerous. I have type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, take metformin, and trying to clean my shit up. So yeah, if it's the pot calling the kettle black, so be it. But again, I'm not a politician and I'm not a scholar. I'm a fucking comedian. So when you ask me a question, if you throw me the alley-oop, I'm a shack that shit.
Right. But have you actually experienced any kind of hardships in your career as a result of those comments, or was that just the sort of standard people talk shit about you for a day or two on Twitter and then everybody forgets about it type thing?
Again, we live in an age where, you know, you're not allowed to be opinionated. And again, even if you do it through what you feel is supposed to be humor, that's the subjective part. Some may find it funny, some may not. But, you know, when I said what I said, it was like Mel Gibson and Braveheart. Are you ready for a war? And here come all the big bitches and all the other women coming over the hill in force.
So then she recently was on the receiving end of this lawsuit from some of her ex-dancers.
Said something about she wanted some of her dancers to eat a banana out of a vagina.
In the strip club. And this is the person telling you to fuck yourself.
For body shaming. Ain't life a motherfucker.
Do you tend to just, have you actually looked into it in any depth, or have you just like kind of heard about it?
Hey man, I heard about it, but that was enough for me.
You don't want to revel in her
Listen,
pain too much?
I put out a post where it was a split screen. On one side was her picture and the accusation, and on the other side was just me simply looking in the camera, slowly smoking a cigar and smiling. I have to say a motherfucking thing. The moment spoke for itself.
Right. But do you, okay.
And listen, let's be clear here. Women fat shame men all the time. Countless times the jokes about Biggie and Rick Ross and DJ Khaled. But why is it that women somehow seem to be off limits but scream equality? If you want equality, you know what I mean? Like Denzel said, you pray for the rain, you got to deal with the mud too.
I mean, yeah, the way it should be is that you should be able to be on the receiving end of jokes, but then also your, you know, personhood should not be questioned just by virtue of you being overweight. Like you're still a good,
me when you say okay.
Like you who you are as a human being, it shouldn't just be like considered automatic that you're a bad or less than person as a result of you being overweight. But
the
it
joke's
also
gonna be what they're gonna be.
Yeah, but it also has to be acknowledged that if I weighed 50 pounds more, my life would be significantly worse in a whole variety of ways, not the least of which would be me being unattractive or less attractive. But I mean, if I lose another 30 pounds, like I've done it. I've lost large amounts of weight, and it has got to be one of the best things that I could possibly do for my own personal happiness and comfort and, you know, just everything. If I lose 20 pounds, like everything exercise wise or just life wise feels better. My back pain gets worse as I gain weight and stuff. And in the search of making everybody feel good, we've kind of landed on this weird new world where you have to almost act like everything is equal.
And it's not.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, we need to knock this horse shit off. You know, I recently I forget who the basketball player was. It might have been Brittany Griner, who was talking about how come the women in the WNBA don't get paid as much as the men, and they want to label it sexism and inequality, and it's like that. It's got nothing to do with sexism or inequality. Your product stinks.
Nobody wants to watch it.
You've got inferior cocaine.
Yeah.
You know, the NBA is 100% on Bolivian cut yayo.
Right.
And their shit has got baking powder. It's been stepped on. It's like physically, they just can't do what the men do. And the bottom line is, it's a business. And if you could put the asses in the seats, sell the merchandise, validate the money made in the TV contracts, you know, you'd get that same money.
Right.
But the product is not as fun. And I always say, look, man, who's the woman that passes like Magic Johnson? Who's the chick in the WNBA that shoots like Steph Curry, flies through the air like Jordan, crosses and breaks ankles like Allen Iverson, dominates the paint like Shaq? Who's the women that do that?
It's easy to see why we get offended by it, because if you can't fill up rooms as a comic, then you're not going to make too much money. And if you can fill up 5,000, 10,000 person venues, you're going to make a shitload of money. If I can't get any views on my podcast, I'm not going to make any money this month on YouTube. I'm not going to get any sponsors, etc. We're used to having to be judged by the actual outcome or the output that we bring into the world. Whereas when you hear a lot of these female athletes talk about how much they should be getting paid, it seems like they just have no connection to the actual dollars that are being brought in, which we understand to be the defining factor of how much you are going to get paid.
They're a losing business financially.
Yeah.
And even when I remember I saw Shaq on Drink Champs, and he said, I know how to solve the problem. Just lower the rim just a little bit. And they get offended by that. The idea of lowering the rim as though they're somewhat inferior. And listen, and you just said it a second ago, this thing where we want to play this, we're all equal, but in reality we know we're not. It's like, look, men and women biologically, we're built different. There are certain things that women just will not be as good at as men, and vice versa. And that's okay. That's okay. Why do we have to force this shit? You know what's something that women do that bother the shit out of me? When I go meet, like I'll go to do press for whatever city I'm in for the show. So I'll go into the local news station, and you know, whoever this broad is, it's got a top tier position. When she goes to shake my hand, she's purposely trying to crush every bone in my hand to prove to me I have a firm handshake just like a man, therefore I'm to be respected as such. Say, bitch, you ain't got to try to break my hand to get me to respect you. Act accordingly. Show me you're intelligent. You know, just do your job. But for you trying to show me through strength, knowing that if I wanted to, I could suplex the shit out of you from the handshake position. So knock it off. But, you know, I don't think that there's anything wrong in being honest about who we are and how we are made. It's nature's design.
At some point, I'm going to have to tell my daughter that she's just not going to be as good at basketball as the boys.
And that's not
that
to
are
say
the
she
same
can't
age
play basketball.
Right. It's just the reality of it.
Yeah, that's just the reality, man.
And you have to be able to explain that to somebody, like, you know, without having it be considered hateful or mean.
We can't make cookies as good as women.
The hospitality industry, nursing, it's dominated by women.
I know the cooking field is dominated by men, even though the stereotype is that women, you know, they're in the kitchen, they belong in the kitchen. But the biggest, the most popular and the most successful chefs are men.
I play poker, which is you know, it's not a physical game, but it's a game that's like, it clearly rewards people who are willing to like really put in the work of like, you know, studying and understanding the math and a lot of these situations and stuff. And as a result, poker's like 95% men, and you know, it's slim pickings when it comes to women that can be considered really like elite.
Well,
because women I don't think gravitate towards that sort of like obsessive approach towards this sort of like nerdy pastime, you know?
Well, I would attribute that more to just a lack of interest rather than a lack of intellect.
Right.
Because a woman, certainly from an intellectual standpoint, has the capability to crunch numbers and do those things.
It just seems like
That
they
might
don't
be-
really want to on average,
right,
you
but
know?
that falls more about into interest or lack thereof
Right.
rather than intellect.
Yeah.
Whereas with sports, we're just bigger, stronger, faster.
Right.
That's how we're built. That's just biologically what it is.